Hey guys, this is Paul Soche with FBA Insiders, and I got Scott and Wendy here on the other line with us. And we are going to be talking about their experience with FBA Insiders over the Q4 of 2018 and moving in now into Q1 of 2019 and their experience. Scott and Wendy are not old veteran sellers. Like, they just recently started. So we're going to talk a little bit about their experience, how they've overcome things, especially in the retail arbitrage world. You hear many people today say retail arbitrage is dead, you can't do it, there's no money to be made. Well, Scott and Wendy's story is going to kind of blow your mind with that, and how fast you can get going if you really put your mind to it and put time into it. Scott and Wendy, why don't you just give us a little introduction of your background and kind of how you got started with Amazon, and tell us your why, like the reason why you are doing Amazon.
Well, our background is we're both economists. We actually met in graduate school and lived in DC for way too long before leaving for greener pastures in northern New England as we started our family. And we've been in the nonprofit, or as I like to call it, the no-profit world that entire time. And we've worked our way up. We've been at the top, if you will, and it just wasn't fulfilling our dreams and goals that we wanted. Our first dream, as our family grew, we now have 5 children. We homeschool them, and we always wanted to be able to teach them how the real world works, the private sector, if you will. And we wanted to be able to give them a business potentially. And so we've been looking for years, really, for something that would fit, our lifestyle and be able to bring our kids into. And that wasn't an easy thing. And so about a year ago, we were attending a homeschool conference, and we listened to Ray Perry, who some of you may know, who teaches homeschoolers how to incorporate basically entrepreneurship into their curriculum. We went to her conference and we looked at various things that we learned there, and we decided that Amazon was actually the best course for us, and that's when we embarked on that. So that was in the summer, and a few short months after that, we were up to our eyeballs and learning all about Amazon and bringing our children in, and they help us with prepping. They go on our RA trips, and we show them how to use the tools that we're using, and they're just excited about it as we are. And so that's sort of our personal side. But then there's also a professional side of our story where, as I said, we had climbed to the top. We'd actually created a product that represents sort of the capstone of our 20-year career as economists. It's called the Family Prosperity Index. And it's the most comprehensive index of its kind. It basically shows not just how a state prospers economically, but also socially, and how the family is the centerpiece of that. If you have strong families, you'll have a strong economy, and vice versa. If you have a strong economy, you'll have strong families. And unfortunately, what we learned in that experience as we were launching this product, if you will, just like you would launch a product in Amazon in a sense, is that we end up spending all of our time in that world chasing donors. And we didn't really have time to market the product, to create it, to really build it out so that people could get their hands on it. And that was really frustrating for us. And so the other part of our why is we really want to be on the other side of the table, if you will. We sat across the table from donors and foundations, and you're always constantly doing this dance where you have to please what they want, and in turn get what you want out of it. And sometimes the two just never meet. So we decided that maybe we're just going to have to be able to fund this ourselves one day, or at least find other ways of marketing it. And what we're learning in Amazon actually might be able to help us there.
Yeah, so Amazon will be a piece of that, funding that nonprofit for y'all.
Right.
That's absolutely awesome. Wendy, do you have anything that you want to add to that as far as your why as like a mom of 5 kids and incorporating them, and maybe even talk about, like, because it sounds glamorous, right? Like, oh, our kids work with us, but it's like but your kids work with you. So maybe there's some like the good, bad, and ugly of having your family integrated, because I do the same thing where, you know, my kids are a lot younger. I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, but ideally would love to incorporate them. But maybe talk about that, those challenges that have come with, you know, starting a new business and bringing them in from the get-go. And just to clarify too, you said you learned about Amazon in the summer of 2018, right? And then 3 months later, you were just like going at it hard and come October. So go ahead, Wendy, I'll let you. Um,
so thank you again for this opportunity, Paul. But I think one of the biggest challenges is just, you know, they're using your house to, you know, homeschool is in itself is a challenge, right? There are books everywhere, you know, organizing is a big challenge. And so adding the Amazon business into it was even more of a challenge. And so I think that I think that was our biggest struggle. Our kids have, you know, they've traveled with us quite a bit in our other profession, and they understand what we do. They can't do what we do. They have to go to school and become economists, but they understand what we do. So, and they understand like the benefits of entrepreneurship at a pretty high level. So they get what we're doing. They understand why we're doing this, and that we said there's going to be a lot of pain for all of us, you know, to learn this business. And there is a lot of pain. I mean, it isn't pretty, like you said. And when you're asking your kids to do things when they want to, you know, go out and play basketball, or they don't understand why they can't go to this activity because we have a shipment going out the next day. You know, some people may disagree with that and may not think that that's, you know, a good thing to have your children doing. But we're, you know, whether it's, you know, I mean, because, you know, our oldest is 16 and he could have a job at, you know, Walmart or Home Depot or wherever, and he'd have to do the type of stuff that we're having him do. Mm-hmm. But he's doing other stuff as well. You know, he's going to learn tactical arbitrage, right? And he's going to learn, he already understands how to source a product profitably. And he understands that that's when you buy is when you make your money. Mm-hmm. Right? And so they're not just working at a retail store or, you know, boxing things. They're learning the concepts of why they're doing what they're doing, and they're understanding that they can own, you know, the whole process, right, as they get older. And so I think that's the fulfilling part for them, even though there is some pain and some complaining for sure.
Sure. But I mean, to think about the skill set that comes from that, like they're not just going somewhere being told what to do, you know, taping boxes, whatever, although that might be a portion of what they're doing with y'all. There's a lot of education that's going on of like, here's how to scan a product. Here's how to figure out if it's profitable. I mean, that skill alone, like, let's say for whatever reason, if your son didn't want to go to school or he didn't want to pursue some other profession, he could make a very healthy living on his own, just selling on Amazon, you know, probably way more than any other 18-year-old or 20-year-old is going to make, you know, but to have the entrepreneurial mindset to go, hey, I can actually do this. I can generate my own money, you know, not just make $10 an hour or $12 an hour working for Home Depot or whatever it is. So
when they understand how much they're making per hour when we go to shop versus we compare that, they're making, you were just paid $100 an hour. You could never make that. What are you going to get paid at Home Depot? And that right there is enough to explain.
Yeah.
You know, a bit of this.
Absolutely. So what would you say, kind of coming into FBA Insiders, you know, right into Q4, it's the hottest time of the year. It's kind of either make or break, right? It's like, you know, you have enough knowledge going in to be dangerous, but also enough to where you know, if you made some pulled the wrong triggers, then, you know, you could potentially lose a lot of money. So what was the benefits of FBA Insiders and the kind of those beginning challenges of doing RA where you're just learning sales rank and how to really keep a chart and all those things? What was some things you had to climb over with that?
Well, the biggest benefit, well, I'll start with our challenge. So our challenges with RA, we live in a really rural area. So a lot of the stores that are around us, one, they don't have a cell phone signal, they don't have a cell signal. And two, to really get to a shopping area that has multiple stores that make your trip worth it, probably an hour and a half away. So that was one of our biggest challenges. And along with that was, just sourcing in general. I think that's everybody's challenge is where do I start? What do I buy? And so to overcome the rural challenge of just not being where the stores are, we very early on we started doing OA in addition to RA. And I know you have a group going on that, and that's just wonderful because that, along with FBA insiders, showing us sort of the whole wide range of products that you should be looking at that you wouldn't think about on your own. That along with tactical arbitrage and an online program that can pull up just a wide array of things to really open your mind to what's available.
Right.
That was the most valuable thing at that point at the very beginning. You just didn't know what to buy. I mean, you gravitate towards what you know and
Yep.
what's in your house or what you value, and that's not necessarily, or maybe not at all,
Yeah.
what the high, and especially going into Q4.
Right.
Where it's a whole different bag of goods that you should be focusing on. So that was the real value, is just opening your mind to what is what you should be looking at.
And for us,
Go ahead.
I was to say, for us personally, we were in Q4. We haven't obviously made a lot of money yet. We were gearing up, but following Tony's journey, knowing that she was only doing this like we were a year ago, learning all this, and yet seeing the success she had. I mean, obviously, Paul, we know you have had tremendous success, but her timeline, I guess, was kind of more like ours, and so we really related to that, and that kept us going.
Yeah, and to clarify for the listeners, Tony is one of our moderators of the group who helps post deals, and so that was her story. Like you said, she started a year ago. So it is nice to be able to relate that story, to where it's like, okay, if somebody else, that like a real person that I'm talking to, did exactly what we're trying to do, if they did it, then certainly we can do it. If they overcame the challenges, like one of the biggest things that I think of for new sellers is being ungated. That's typically the biggest frustration that I hear, is everything that I scan, I'm not able to sell. So how did y'all kind of overcome that mindset? Did y'all just go and try to get ungated in a bunch of stuff? Did you go and get a wholesale account with certain places and send in invoices, or did you just skirt around that and just, there was so much profitable inventory around you, it really didn't matter?
I think we did a mix of all that. I mean, I think that was another thing that I was going to mention, was the gating. That's one of your biggest challenges when you're new, like you just said. And so we did spend some time to get, in Q4, to get ungated in toys, some of the big brands that you could get ungated in. So we, chose a wholesaler, and it's a really easy process to do. So that did allow us to buy some toys and benefit from those exploded prices. And so that was really exciting. But so getting on, spending that time to get ungated even beyond Q4 in some other areas that open up some doors for you, like in topicals, automotive, hazmat, those aren't difficult things. Maybe topicals is more difficult. But we did get ungated on all those things, and that has really opened the doors, kind of blown the doors off to the opportunities that we have in front of us now. And but we only learned about all those things. I mean, we knew we were gated in all of them, and we would just ignore. We would just, we wouldn't go to Walgreens. We didn't go to, those type of, those aisles. But being in the group, you can ask questions about those things. Has anybody gotten ungated in these areas, and how did you do it, and how? And so that has been so valuable. I mean, that can explode your growth. Just, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, some of the things that, some of the suggestions that we saw, we didn't always agree with them. Like we were like, well, and that's, we can talk about some of those things, but we still listened. We still went and did it, even though we didn't, we weren't quite sure if it was going to work. And so listening to people who've been successful, and just kind of doing what they tell you to do, even though you might be uncertain or you don't want to take that risk, do it, because it will pay off, because you don't know what to do. Or you can't know what to do, Yeah. Learn from other people's mistakes.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the whole point of the group, is to be able to have that. I mean, when you put, 50 to 100 sellers in a room and they all have these different experiences, just one little tip, can be $1,000 or $10,000 tip, and you can just run rampant with it. And so, you kind of alluded, the next question I was going to ask was, how has FBA Insiders helped you grow? And you were talking about, just the wide array of items that are posted, because we have, I think at the time there was 6 of us that were posting deals just throughout the country, 6 of us, that do retail arbitrage. And so there is a variation from not just the national big box stores, but even regional stores. But a store like you mentioned, Walgreens, so that could be a store that like you would have never even thought to step foot in and think like, oh yeah, Walgreens, they sell lots of things that are profitable. Or Walmart's kind of a given, but then Walmart is also really competitive. So how do we find listings that are maybe hidden listings, ghost listings? And that's the type of stuff that we were sharing, occasionally as we would go throughout the group. And so one of the things I would say too, that we also added in there was showing you the way that I like to say it is we would give you fish, but also teach you how to fish, right? So like we're giving you these leads, but also showing you here's how we found the leads, right? Would you say that was fairly impactful for y'all as you were going throughout stores and learning how to navigate the phone in the beginning and all of that?
No, that was extremely helpful. I don't know if you.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, I was probably the more difficult one when it came to the sourcing. Just in terms of finding stuff, I was a little, at first, when we first started, a little disheartened, but it eventually just opened my eyes that we had no problems sourcing. In fact, it's just quite the opposite. Once you learn a couple of stores and insiders definitely helped us with that. Like when you said, like Walgreens, I would never consider Walgreens as a sourcing early on in this venture. But once you get a couple of stores down and you're following them and their sales and everything that's going on, right now my head's more swimming because, as Wendy said earlier, there's so many targets and we don't have the time or the money necessarily to go after them all. Even that was even before we were ungated in some of these other items that Wendy mentioned earlier.
And
that really frustrated, I think, with, like everybody always refers to the the sports apparel, the Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas, and we're gated. Don't post those things. But I think posting those things is helpful because you can see, like, you will get ungated in those eventually, as your metrics go up, right? As you get, as more product goes in. And so even though you may be gated in those brands, it allows you to see the type of things that are profitable so that you can look to some of the other brands. There are some sports apparel brands that you can buy. They are out there.
Yeah, we just got ungated in about 12 shoe brands the other day. We were shopping shoes. And as our metrics have gotten better, we were getting auto approved right and left. We were like, wow, this is great.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we preach, is just keep plugging away, sell what you can sell, build your metrics up. And then you'll all of a sudden, I've known people that were, their account was 6 months old and all of a sudden they were able to sell Nike, and stuff. And, I think the deception is that, oh, I can't sell Nike. So that means I can't sell anything. And it's like, no, that's not, it's like the farthest from the truth. Right. So what would you say to somebody that is kind of just starting out? Like, it's probably fairly fresh in y'all's minds because you've only been selling for 6 months roughly. 4 months. Yeah. Wow. That's even much less. So what would you say to somebody that, when they're starting out, try to, give them some encouragement and as they get going and they're nervous, or maybe they buy one thing, or they buy, they go do a shopping trip and it's a complete flop, right? Like everything they bought just completely tanks, or it's not profitable, or doesn't sell. So what would you say to that person that's kind of struggling, thinking about maybe joining something like FBA Insiders, or thinking about, is Amazon even for me?
I would say that your mindset is one of the most important things in the early days, that you have some tough mental mindset, because you're going to be, being thrown into Q4, and that's when we're learning. That's our learning environment, is like the most hyper, I don't know what to call it. It's, what would you call it? How would you explain what Q4 is like?
It's kind of like, you never stop moving.
Yeah.
It is for my business, and I think for many businesses, we will sell in the fourth quarter, we double our sales that quarter throughout the year. So quarters 1 through 3 will typically equal the amount of sales that happen in Q4. So it's just like, it's that just robust, very profitable time of year. And there's so much to take advantage of. If you're not prepared, you can really miss out on a lot.
Yeah, and so I think that sort of increased activity and enthusiasm that was, apparent in the group, and that just really amazing work effort that was there, that really kind of amped up our level of positive attitude and activity and work effort, so that we kept that going after Q4. And so I really think it was the best time for us personally to get into the business, because we saw so much success early on. And so it gave us the confidence to not to do risky things, but not to get upset about the things that, we were, the items that we lost money on, because there were so many other items that we were making a ton of money on to compensate for that. And so it was really good for our just to learn really quickly and sort of drink from the fire hose, because we learned so much in a really short period of time, and it was really exciting because we were seeing those profits really early on.
Yeah, and exactly like you said, not everybody gets to start out right at the beginning of Q4, and it can almost be to somebody's detriment if they start out in Q4, but they don't really know what to do, and they just go spend a bunch of money. So like as far as somebody joining a group like FBA Insiders, whether it be Q4 or any of the other quarters throughout the year, there's always profitable inventory to be had. It's more of just, where do you go and what are other people buying? And that's kind of for the listener, what we do in FBA Insiders is we're sharing 200 or more leads a month to tell you what to go and buy. That doesn't mean you have to go buy that exact thing. It's a lead, not a deal. So we, instead of calling them deals where it's like, here, go and buy this thing, we call it a lead, where it should lead you to other products. For instance, if we post a pair of shoes or clothing or a toy, and those listings have variations, well, you should also be looking at those other variations. And then also learning from, okay, I'm in this section of the store. What else in this section of the store should I be scanning? Is it a grocery item, a clothing item, a toy, whatever it is, a seasonal item? So all of those things. And then we talk about just like general selling, right, in the group of, any types of questions. And one of the things I love about the group too is just the wide range of where everybody's at. There's, single moms that are just trying to make a little bit of extra for their kids. And then there's full-blown businesses where they're selling over 7 figures, doing hazmat and seller fulfilled and all types of different things, where there's literally it's just a big classroom in essence, where there's money being made. We're telling you what to go and buy, but we're also doing, a bajillion other things, webinars. We just did one on a reimbursement software. I don't know if y'all got to see that on Seller Locker. But like that, there's just a lot of really great things out there that come along with the group. And then I kind of just went out on a tangent there. So let's talk about your future plans. Where do you want to be in 6 months? Maybe mention, Scott, we were just talking before we hit the record button, you went from having, we want to sell $1,000 a day to now we want to sell 2,000. What kind of launched you into that? And where do you hope to be, in 6 months to a year?
Absolutely. Obviously, coming out of Q4, we were resetting our goals, and our first goal was to hit $1,000 a day for 30 days. And as we posted on Insiders only less than a week ago, we hit that goal of doing $1,000 for 30 days. And then, after, we talked to you and about where we were at, we decided we hadn't used a repricer. I've been using the Amazon repricer, but I hadn't pulled the trigger on using a paid repricer. And I finally decided to do that. And so after we hit the $1,000, we said, well, our next goal would be to hit $2,000. We thought it would take us 2 or 3 months to do that. And once we activated the repricer, we ended up hitting that in 3 days.
I love it.
We're just completely mind blown. And now we're in the 4th day, and yesterday we almost hit 2,000. So we've averaged about 2,000 for 2 days so far. So if we can hold that for 30 days, then we're gonna have to reevaluate our goals moving forward from that. But we're super excited and couldn't believe what the repricer had done. I mean, according to the metrics, I was only in the buy box for about 10% of our products, and post repricer we were over 50%. So that was an amazing jump in terms of being in the buy box, and I had no idea it would help our sales that much.
And for the listener too, just remember, we're talking about Q1, right? Like, it's not like these sales are increasing like in Q4, like this is February. This is just a regular time of the year. But I think the lesson to take is the products that you're buying, you figured out what to go after, to where, once you get that buy box share, it's not like you're just losing a bunch of money getting into that buy box. Like, you're still profitable. It's still working. Like, maybe you're taking a little bit less, but you're being more competitive, and you're understanding what you need to do to basically turn those dollars over faster, and to keep that going. And so I'm not too sure how many business models are out there where you can just say, hey, look, we're going to go just double our business today. Like, boom. And, just the growth can be outstanding when you really put forth the effort. And I love the fact that, maybe y'all don't love it, the fact that y'all are rural, but from a storytelling perspective, that y'all are rural and you're able to go and still make this happen. Like, there's so many excuse killers out there, and that's one of them. But like, the excuse of just like, oh, there's no stores around me, I can't do this, and it's like, no, that's not true. Like, you can reverse source, you can use BrickSeek, you can use, all kinds of other things that are out there to help you just make the most of your trips. Like you said, you take your kids along with you and all that. So I love that, just y'all's story and how you've really just gotten rid of all the excuses and look where you're at. You're being highly successful. And I really think it's kind of anybody's game in the sense, like, I've had a lot of friends come up to me and be like, man, I can never do, what you're doing. I'm like, on one hand, it's really not that hard. On the other hand, there's a learning curve for sure, but it's just like anybody can learn this, right? It's just, what's your motivation? What's your why? Like, y'all have a really good why that's driving this. And I feel like for most people that start, if you don't have that, like, if you're just like, I want to be busy, or I want something to, like, there's got to be a bigger reason, right? That's going to help you push through the harder times. Because I know, although we are talking about success, y'all definitely, I'm sure with every success story, there is a failure in a sense, or a learning opportunity is what I like to call them, that you had to jump through to continue to find that success. And so, kudos to y'all. Thank y'all so much for hopping on. And just to clarify too, again, for the listener, we have the Q4 group. And the reason we did the Q1 was because everybody was like, hey, please don't shut the group down. Like, I wasn't actually even planning on keeping it going, but we did, and it's still valuable. There's still deals, there's still content, and all those things. And so we're going to try to keep it going as long as we can. Anything else that y'all wanted to add before we took off?
No, we just want to thank you again, because the Q4 group is really the group that launched us, and is, we really attribute the content to the small success that we've had in a short period of time. So thank you so much to all the contributors and all the people, and also to all the great members that contribute as well.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
Really.
Well, and too, what I love is the kind of the giver's gain, where, as y'all have learned, although you might feel super new and young, you've only been doing this for 4 months, you have tons to offer somebody else that's just coming up right behind you, or maybe they've been selling for a little bit, but struggling. So it's like everybody can give and take in the help in the group for sure. So, well, thank y'all so much. I'm going to go ahead and end our recording, and happy selling. And I can't wait to hear whenever you're like, hey, Paul, I just want you to know we're selling, like 5,000 a day. And here's where we're at. So I'm super proud of y'all. And we will be in touch.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Bye-bye.